Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Citizens of Lorcana podcast, a podcast where we invite you to be part of their world. We're your hosts, Jared and James. Today we are talking about the magical experience that was Disney Lorcana, the first chapter. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to another week. Last week we had the ability to talk with Alicia of WDWNT. It was an amazing podcast. She was somebody I'd never really talked to before. And if you didn't get the chance to listen to that, make sure to go back and check it out. Today, we are taking a retrospective look at Disney Lorcana, the first chapter. So, James, before the game released, you and I were almost complete TCG newbies. You especially. I'd had some experience playing My Hero. We aren't quite pros after 3 months. I'm not ready to say that. But I want to start by asking, did Disney Lorcana, the first chapter, live up to the hype, both in terms of gameplay and just the whole experience in general?
That's a big question, isn't it?
It's a huge question.
It is.
It's a retrospective.
Well, at first when I was listening to you talk about, like the magical experience that was Disney Lorcana, I thought maybe it was going to be a eulogy for a second there.
Okay.
Like, no, we're still going. We're still going. No, so did it live up to the hype? Honestly, yes, it did. The game is awesome. All of the introduction stuff that we did for a year before the game came out, all of that hype, I honestly feel was paid off. And I would say because we got to see all of the art before it came out, I don't know if that can be paid off because we saw it all. But seeing it on cards was awesome. And the gameplay, absolutely. Learning how to play, learning how to play when sitting down across from someone that you're really trying to beat. And all of that was an excellent experience. I had so few bad experiences playing for the last 3 months and so many good ones that I would say that it definitely lived up to the hype overall and completely.
Yeah, this was meant to be a high level question. It's exactly like what you said. We've been talking about this game basically since August/September of 2022. Here we are knocking on the door of 2024. And so often when things are hyped up, like they set you up for disappointment. And that was my greatest concern. And I was ready. I was like, this game just needs to be an inkling of fun, and I'll consider it not a waste of time. But not only is it an inkling, it's just a lot of fun. But I just look back, and I guess I extend the first chapter experience to before the game was launched. We made so many friends on the Discord. We had so much fun, so many good memories. Like when we first joined the Discord, Shane and Sophia from Ravensburger were there, and we just always had a great time. It was a blast. And being in this game on the ground level, we're going to look back 30 years from now and we're going to be like, yeah, we made a podcast for this game before it even came out. We sat down at Gamma with one of the game designers and played a multiplayer game before it ever came out. And I don't know, like it's just when I say it was a magical experience from beginning when we first joined the Discord to starting the podcast to going to Gamma to going to Gen Con to going to local tournaments, it's all just been a really magical experience. And I'm not sitting here saying that everything was sunshine and roses. I know that. I get that. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but we've talked about that stuff to death. So that's why I really wanted to focus on the highlights.
Yeah, so let's talk about the highlights. What have been some of yours throughout the last 3 months?
I mean, the obvious answer is actually getting cards in our hands. Do you remember what it was like at Gamma when we were finally able to sit at the table and we were holding cards, actual Lorcana cards that weren't D23? I know you have D23 cards, but actual cards that you could play with. Do you remember what that was like? Like, that was so special. That was definitely one of the highlights.
It was absolutely a highlight. And as you mentioned, being able to play a game with Steve, uh, late at night after everything was done, just the experience of that, and then being able to then sit down and play the game. I guess not. You can't really say for real, but with cards I owned that I could go home with and start the collection on that first opening weekend and be able to play the game and start putting stuff in my collection tracker, and just every little bit of it was just an amazing experience. And as you mentioned, there it wasn't all sunshine and roses. There was the issues and there was all of that, but it didn't really, in the end, like sitting down here thinking about it, I can look back and go like, yeah, I was in a bad mood about product availability for weeks, and just being stressing about it, about having to like run to every Target for weeks on end trying to track down product. But over time, thanks to multiple people who picked up product for me, or directed me to where some was so I could go pick it up myself, or did some amazing trading where they did that. Just really, just that's what I remember way more than the fact that I was just, so frustrated trying to find product, until now where I'm like, I feel so good about where I am with the collection, where I am with the game, what I'm able to, what's been going on. So yeah, I mean, it's been just one highlight after another, in actually collecting and playing the game.
And we're not trying to minimize anybody else's experience that hasn't been able to find cards. Like, we know how hard it is. I see it all the time on Twitter, and I reach out to people and try to help out where I can. Like, I totally get that. And hopefully, with set three, knocking on the door here in 3 months, I think that's when we're going to start seeing product. But I wanted to say another highlight for me has just been the community, and both in terms of the like global community on Discord and Twitter. Like, it's been one of the highlights of my life. All the people I've been able to meet, all the memes that I've been able to make, all the interactions that I've had, but also on the local level. I don't know what it's like for you. Well, I guess you didn't attend Gen Con, but we'd been going on this journey where we'd been part of Lorcana from the beginning in the Discord, at Gamma, at Gen Con. So when I finally went to my first locals, I almost felt like, Frodo after he'd been on his quest, and I was like back in the ordinary world. Like, these people that don't even know me, they don't even know what I've done. Okay, now I'm
Honestly,
starting to sound braggadocious,
you know
but
what? It's really weird because I feel like we had, like, from Gen Con on, we had almost completely opposite experiences, where you had that Gen Con experience with all the people and just this big giant like group hug of Gen Con, and just being able to hang out with so many people and opening boxes, before anyone else. And then your local experience once you got back home was just not like, there was issues with being able to play because of work, or the store, this or that, the scheduling. And you really didn't even, I think for like the first few weeks, you only got to play like one event,
yeah, I went
where
into a deep funk because of that.
yeah, and I was like, oh, I can't go to Gen Con. But then as soon as events started, I was like going to 2 or 3 events a week. I was able to go to, I think now I've been to 5 different game stores to play an event. And I'm still going to be going to like 3 of them almost every week. And it was just really nice that you know, I had that experience to be able to say, like, this is how this is supposed to work. And you had the experience in like the big level of this is how the global community is supposed to work. And just being able to experience something, because I bet, met people that I've seen at multiple stores and we say hi to each other now. And when we sit down to games, we can chat about stuff and how our collections are going and all that kind of stuff. And it's really cool. And it's just something that I found um, just really nice about being able to go and like hang out at places, which is something that I had never done before.
Yeah, I will say I have finally found a home at for a local game store. And it works perfectly with my schedule. I had big ideas and big hopes for what I could do in the local community, but my job just doesn't allow it. But yeah, it's at a boba place of all the places in the world. But they also are like a hybrid where they do card game tournaments. I know it's the craziest thing, but I've been going there consistently for the last, I think, 6 weeks now. And I've gotten to know a lot of the guys there, and it's been really good. So
I mean, if it's going to be a hybrid place, it might as well be somewhere with tasty drinks, right?
it's it's pretty awesome. And not only that, they have like three pinball machines that you can play for free. Two pinball machines and one like it was Street Fighter versus X-Men
Nice.
arcade machine. And then they have like three Nintendo Switches with different games that you can just jam out on. So people are coming and playing games. It's actually a pretty cool place.
That is pretty cool.
So, um, let's let's go with this. Do you have a favorite gameplay or tournament moment? I remember when we were talking one time, you shared an experience where you the opponent had Dr. Facilier on the board and you banished a couple of their cards and you were able to play You Have Forgotten Me. Was that your highlight, or is there something else in there?
Yeah, yes. I think that was my gameplay highlight where in the middle of the turn, and I'm sure people probably would have been like, yeah, I would have figured that out like as soon as I saw what was happening with Facilier. I'm like, but no, it took me until the middle of the turn where I was sitting there for at least 30 seconds looking at stuff, going like, can I do this? Can I do that? I'm like, oh, it was that light bulb moment where you're like, I know exactly what I'm gonna do. And I I just pulled everything off where everything went into the right order and everything worked and it helped me win the game. And just that kind of thing where you can figure it out, even though like a lot of people like know everything their deck can do and all the lines and all the plays. And it's like, you know what? Sometimes you just don't know everything. Sometimes you just need to like make up something on the fly. And I was so happy that that actually worked.
No, I remember when you were talking about that. I was like, wow, that is really cool. I probably would not have thought of that. I probably wouldn't have been running that card in the first place because at that time I didn't think that it was the greatest card in the world. But I've since come to realize just how good it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think my best tournament moment probably was the when our one of our main stores, Kingslayer, ran out of packs to give out every week, and they still, I guess, they decided to keep troves and gift sets for prizing at some point, and they decided that this 1 week, like about 4 weeks ago, was it. And they ran a tournament where top six got a trove, and then the next six got gift sets, and I played as hard as I could and I lost a game, but I did just good enough to go 3-1 and finish in sixth place and, get a trove. And it was just
Whoop.
awesome. Yeah. I mean, it was just so awesome. Like the, the 2 months of playing and learning and getting better and building my deck to be exactly where I wanted it so I could play it the way I wanted it to go and knew it well enough to do the things that it's supposed to do, and then making that work to actually win something like that was just an awesome moment for a tournament.
Yeah, I would feel so proud. For me, gameplay, I can't think of a specific gameplay moment like you had with You Have Forgotten Me. Um, for me though, is just I'm going back to this well here, but playing in the first tournament at Gen Con was such a magical experience. Even though I lost, I went 1-2. I won my last round. My opponent was kind enough to drop out that last round, and we were able to play it. but that's something I'll never forget. As far as tournaments, I had one tournament. This was when I was going to another store called Power 9, and they do 4 rounds, but it's like we wouldn't get done until 11 o'clock at night. So I always dropped out after the third round because I got up really early for work. Well, this one particular tournament, I had finally stopped trying to make my Sapphire Steel deck work. I think I was running, it was some type of aggro. It may have been lemon lime. It was the turquoise high five. And I went 3-0, and it was exhilarating. I was like, I've never been undefeated before. I was at the top table, and I was like, I actually have a chance. I actually have a chance to go 4-0. But I played against he's a player here in Las Vegas. His name is Renee. He's really good. He went down to Miami TCG Con, which was like the biggest tournament, and he took fourth overall. So that's what I'm saying. I lost to a really good player, but in that moment, like it was such a rush. And I know winning's not everything, but it was just exciting to think that I even had a chance.
Yeah. I mean, I did go 4-0 once, and that was, yeah, you're right. That's a rush. That's amazing. I mean, it was just at a weekly, so I mean, I think I won a pin, which was still awesome. But I mean, going 4-0, winning out, it's just like being able to beat a Ruby Amethyst deck
Yeah,
that I had
that's what I lost
to. Beating one of those decks that I had lost to the week before, the same exact person. It's like Vindication and 4-0 all wrapped in one. But still, winning that trove was still like tops, even though it was 3-1. It was still a nice, hard fought week.
Oh yeah,
Because everyone brought their A game for those prizes. Everyone wanted top 12 for something. So everyone was, I mean, I saw people who hadn't been there in weeks who were like, yep, showing up with either Amber Steel or Ruby Amethyst. There was a lot more of those than there had been before. So it was interesting. All right. So you were just mentioning which decks you played, a few different decks. So which is your favorite deck that you've played?
Well, I did really like that turquoise, which is amber sapphire. Sorry, emerald sapphire. That was a lot of fun to play, but for me, I just found that deck ran out of gas a lot, and I think set 2 is going to fix that. But my favorite deck that I played had to have been amber sapphire. It was like a mid-range deck, and it was really good against Ruby Amethyst. Like it almost made winning against Ruby Amethyst easy, which for so long that had been the bane of my existence. But it also did really well against Amber Sapphire or Amber Steel, the song deck. Where it struggled with was against the aggro decks, and I think that's just a thing. Like a lot of going undefeated is just, that's not just luck of the draw. Like you have to have talent, but if you have a deck that really struggles against an aggro deck, like it's going to be hard. How about you? What was your favorite deck? Well, first of all, did you stick to a single deck? Because I probably played about 6 or 7 different decks throughout the last 3 months.
I started with because of the product issues at the beginning. I started with Sapphire Steel because I had like 3 Sapphire Steel starters, so I had the most cards and I could fill in some decent stuff from the few packs I had gotten. But as soon as I started getting cards, I built the Rockstar Stitch version of Amber Steel, and I played that for maybe a week or 2 max. And then I immediately, as soon as I could, switched to the I guess it's the Ducky version, the Ducky or Steadfast version, without a whole new world in it. And I played that one for the rest of the time. So for 2 months, roughly, I think I played that. And so I guess that's my favorite deck. But I did build a Amethyst Emerald deck to take to casual events that I just wanted to play, where I could just draw and quest for lore and mess with my opponent with bouncing and stuff. and whatever. And I just built that for fun, and I had fun playing with that, even though I didn't win very often. Um, but I think that one was my fun deck. But I know it and it's good, and I enjoy playing it. When I was definitely the Amber Steel deck that I built, and it's just sitting there, still built. I haven't taken it apart in anticipation of set 2 yet, but it's still sitting there and waiting.
Yeah, I think for set 2, I'm going to go to the dark side and try running a meta deck. Like, I'm just gonna
What?
give it a try. I'm gonna give it a try.
Yeah, I've been looking at different compositions. I think Ruby Amber is going to be pretty good this time, and I might do some. I might try and make Amethyst Steel work because I've always enjoyed playing Amethyst and Steel. I mean, there's a lot of I think a lot of combinations are going to come out, and I'm not even sure if we're going to be able to stick with just because I mean we basically just had two main decks, right?
Yeah,
Steel Song and the control
Ruby
deck.
Amethyst.
Yeah, I think
I
it feels like we're gonna have more than two.
I hope Alice becomes a meta deck. That just Sapphire's in my heart, and I would love to see that work. And I think Sapphire and the big Pete card, I think those two could work. I think they could work.
I think so, and if not, I think Sapphire is still going to be able to work because there's so many new items, and with all the different things you can do now, I think the Item Slingers deck might finally be a viable deck.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of things that we can do going through here. It's going to be so much fun trying to figure it out.
All right, but this we're talking about set 1 on this podcast. So, did you have a favorite card that you like to play?
And I like to play. Jeez. I mean, it's hard to say. I'm trying to think of my turns and playing on my turns, but in game, it was always I don't know if I can pick one. So Big Tink and Rapunzel, because just how powerful they were in allowing me to do things, and just the way that they allowed me to win those games, I think was the two that and I just love the art on them. So, it's a combination of, I really love this card and it also is awesome to play.
Well, there you go again, James. I asked you for a favorite card and you gave me
Okay, Big
two.
Tink.
I
There you
was
go.
gonna say, and the only reason why I said that is because I was going to say Rapunzel. I don't know. There's just something so satisfying about being able to heal 3 damage off your character and draw 3 cards. Like, it is such a great like momentum shifter. And like you say, the art is absolutely gorgeous. Every time I had a Rapunzel and I was able to play her using her ability, it just felt good. It felt good. That was my criteria. Which one did I draw that I was like, yes, this is gonna be a good. I'm gonna enjoy this.
Yep. Yeah, I agree 100%. Rapunzel would be my 1A. So number one was Big Tink, so you get Rapunzel.
Okay. Well, I'll get you your 1B. Is that what you're saying?
There you go. Yes. All right. So let's just pause for a moment. And we did this a little bit at the beginning, but let's just reflect on just how amazing it has been to be here from the very beginning, from the release of the cards at D23, in the Discord during all the dry season of no news, seeing all the little bits of news, everyone wondering what challenge is. And all of the different little things we saw on the cards that we didn't know what they meant, and would it be multiplayer, and just all the stuff all the way through reveal season and the rules and Gamma and Gen Con and just everything. I mean, it's been an awesome time to go through until the release, and then these 3 months of playing the game that we spent a year just like living in, essentially.
And all of that, but also I love seeing the genesis of this community. I remember when Artem popped into a Discord. It wasn't the HQ, it was the other one. And he's like, hey, I'm thinking of publishing a website that's a deck builder or a card tracker. It was one of the two. He's like, do you think people would be interested? And I remember responding, yes, absolutely. And so he's like, okay, I published it. And and seeing Lorcania born and what an amazing resource it's been. Or I remember when George, whose username is Surreal, was talking about creating a deck builder, which became Dreamborn.inc. When he first mentioned that, uh, like we were so excited for him, cheering him on. Or seeing, the developers of Illuminarium, the app that I always use for tracking lore, like seeing all these people, seeing the development of the Lorcana HQ Discord. At a point for time, I was even a mod there myself and watched it grow, and seeing the community around Pixelborn grow, and seeing like all these communities just spring to life. The different content creators. I mean, we've known Brandon from B Squared, we've known John T, we've known the Illumiteers. Like we know all these people, and to be a part of that community, to be a part of that company is just like a really humbling thing for me. Um yeah, like these are relationships I'm gonna have my whole life.
Yep, it's awesome. And let's not forget the what do we call him, the star of Lorcana Week,
Oh yeah,
who we've had on a few times, Eric Schweitzer. Um, did I pronounce it right?
Eric Schweitzer. Yeah, this
Nice.
guy, he is such a rock star. I mean, he has been pumping the hype for Lorcana. He could have just covered it. Like it could have just been a thing that he did because he was assigned to. But it wasn't just that. Like he is such a huge advocate and proponent of the game. And when we had that Lorcana week leading up to Gen Con, and him and Joe Parlock and all the people at the Gamer were like instigating that, it was just like the zeitgeist of the moment was something that I'll never forget.
And it's so awesome because since he lives in, like a half an hour away from me, I've gotten to know him thanks to Lorcana, and we go to the games together. We've hung out together. We went and did a stuff at Comic-Con together, and he's just it's just been really cool getting to know him and being able to see, how someone in the industry is. I mean, honestly, he's so much of a fan that it's hard to see him like when he's like, this is what's wrong with this part of the game. And because, being a fan, you're thinking, oh, they're always like, it's all, roses and whatever. But no, he's critical of the game when it needs to be critical. And he's also a good guy. I mean, the other night, I mean, I don't know if you saw, he tweeted out that he's gone to like 4 sealed events and like never lost a game at a
Oh,
sealed event.
yeah, I did see that.
Well, guess who was the benefit of it this week? He
Uh,
finished in first place, walked up there, got the pin that was one, you get to pick one of the 3 pins, and he walked up there, grabbed the logo pin, walked back to the chair, sat down, and just tossed it at me because I hadn't won one yet.
all right, Eric, I'm your friend too. Remember that.
So, but I mean, it's just awesome. But I traded him a bunch of cards that I pulled out of a box. But I mean, he didn't expect anything, and it's just that we hang out, we trade cards. We never look anything up. I mean, it's like, oh, you need those, here, have those, and I'm like, oh, these are here, take these. So we're helping each other finish each other because he's close to finishing his collection now. Finally, believe it or not, he didn't finish his collection off of all those Gen Con boxes and whatever else. um, but anyway, I just wanted to mention the whole Lorcana Week thing and all the different that aspect of it, the news reporting side of it. A bunch of the people that are reporting on it are doing a really good job of enhancing what we're doing, getting the reveals and doing good articles and good reviews, uh, good criticism when it's necessary. All of that stuff I consider all of that to be a really good part of the health of the game and the fun of being involved in the game.
Yeah, I'd throw Christian from comicbook.com in that group too. He's
Yeah.
done a phenomenal job, and we don't know him as well as Eric, but doesn't
And
mean we'd like to.
Yeah, Amy Radcliffe over at Nerdist, who we've never talked to, but I know she's a really good reporter, and she's gotten the two Nerdist articles, I think, where they've revealed some cards. They've revealed some really cool cards, and they've also had some really good short interviews that have some really good information of behind the scenes or about lore or something like that. So getting those done, I think, was really good too. And I'm just glad to see all this stuff as we get it, going forward, where we get all these different little tidbits of information. And keep it coming, people. We want to keep getting all those interviews and seeing all the lore and all the behind the scenes.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
So
What's next?
now let's talk about areas that need improvement. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on the segment because we've done that a lot over the last year. And we're not even going to talk about product shortage because that's a horse that's been beat to death a million times. So if there was an area that you think needed improvement, James, what would it be?
Honestly, at this point, I think the most important thing is to get comprehensive rules out, just so that there's no arguing about how there's card interaction. There's no like gray area. And so people running tournaments, there can be some level like what you can expect when you go to some of these tournaments if they're all going to be following the same guide, instead of one thing happening at one place and something else happening entirely different at another place. It'd just be nice to have the comprehensive rules out.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. The thing that I was thinking about, and this is a soapbox I've been on before, and I feel like it's getting better. And with the official Discord that we'll talk about later, I feel like this is about to change, but it's been communication. I mean, from the beginning to, well, until now, like, I feel like they could have done a much better job of just communicating with us. And I hope it improves. I really do. So that's my thing.
I think it will. I think just with the growth, I think they have to grow into being able to figure out when and where the communicating needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, they're not a huge company like Pokemon that has a million people working on the card game. So I feel like probably the first set here, and maybe, yeah, probably the first set, because they're already making changes. I feel like they were probably just putting fires out everywhere. I think they were so focused on somehow working a miracle to get more product printed, filling out staffing needs, like a whole bunch of stuff like that. So that's what I attribute the lack of communication to, is because they just had so many fires that they were probably putting out.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, and there's a bunch of TCG veterans in there, but I mean, you can't expect Steve and Ryan to have run a company and done all the work necessary to like engage the printers. I mean, they design games, so they didn't have to deal with all that other stuff, and now they're having to deal with a lot of that, or some of the other people who had never done it before that were at the company probably were everybody learning as they go. And like you said, putting fires out. Yeah, I mean, they had a release date. Everything else dropped by the wayside to get those cards out on that release date. And everything else that wasn't necessary to do that just fell by the wayside, it feels like.
I think we lose sight of that sometimes. Like, it's so easy for us to sit here and criticize them. Like, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? But at the end of the day, like, we're not there. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But even still, that's the kind of stuff I wish they would share with us. And just like in that video that was shared today with Ryan, he's like, we've increased production. So I mean, the messaging is trying to get out there. I just wish, and yeah, I just wish that was better communicated.
There you go. I agree
So,
with that.
in honor of this retrospective, I took to Twitter because that's what I do. And I wanted to see what the community had to say as far as what their highlights from the first chapter have been. So here are some of our favorite responses. So let's just take turns sharing some of these, okay? The first is from our good friend and recurring guest co-host, Adara. She said, Gen Con was definitely the highlight for me. No, not the line. Let's forget about the line. But the people and getting to experience opening packs together and trading. These people who I had spent months being excited with online, I finally got to meet, and it was incredible. I agree with everything that she said. There was a lot to not like about Gen Con, but there was so much more to love about it. It's it's not only going to be a highlight of my Lorcana experience, it's really going to be a highlight of my life, to be honest.
Yeah. And there were multiple people who replied that about Gen Con. And since there was multiple replies, we just picked one. And throughout there may be, if you said something similar later on for one of the ones we read, we just picked one because it represented a few of the replies. Another reply was from DM Armada, who said, creating my own version of Amber Emerald Bodyguard and feeling a sense of accomplishment while piloting it versus the top decks in the format. Yeah, that's an awesome thing to feel, is building a deck and then winning with it.
And I'm so jealous because I wish I was creative enough or understanding of the cards enough to build something like this. I mean, I freely admit I'm a net decker. But if I were to build something like that of my own and be able to beat those stupid meta decks, yeah, I'd be so proud.
Mm-hmm. Me too, because I cannot do that either. I build decks and then I win a few and I lose a few, and I'm like, I got to fix this. And then I go look
Yes,
what someone else has done, and I'm like, why didn't I think of putting that card in there? And I make a
same.
couple of changes, but at least I get like a percentage of the way there when I build a deck, and then I look at other people, or I talk to someone, and I'm like, yeah, that card, okay, and then I get a little bit closer. So maybe sometime in the next few years, I'll be able to build a deck that actually does something like all 100% from my brain.
Master Builder James.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one comes from Lorcana Illuminary Rebecca. I love this one. This one was just like a heartwarming comment to me. She said, my 14-year-old son goes with me to League, and we've met some really awesome people. One highlight, besides just playing with my son, was when some of the guys at League gifted him a custom playmat of one of his favorite characters' card art, Surfer Stitch. It was such a cool moment. And when we talk about the community, we're not talking about the people that are toxic or that are not fun to be around. This is the type of community that we're talking about, and that's the type of community that I just love in Lorcana.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, I read that one. I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. Next we have Jimmy, King Jimmy. Seeing friends in group chats posting pictures of getting cards and getting excited over the art, and for me in particular, being able to sleeve decks again after years of not playing TCGs. I mean, this is kind of a story that you hear a lot, where people are like, "Oh, I got burnt out on card games, and I came back." I mean, look, I mean, you had only barely played a card game, but this is like, I'm all in on this. And for me, it's like I'm coming back after having played a card game 23 years ago, for a little bit of a short time and not really being a TCG player, but yeah, this kind of comment is awesome, where everyone's just like, oh, I'm going to come back in and play because this feels like a good time or a good thing to do it, a good game to do it with.
When you talked about these comments being representative of other ones, this one definitely is one that we saw a lot. People who had not played TCGs for years coming back into the game and rediscovering that love. And not just like themselves, but a lot of them talk about being able to share that with their spouses or their partners or their children. Like Disney Lorcana was designed to bring people together. Like that was kind of the premise behind it. And just reading a lot of these comments, you definitely see that. All right. So next one was from our friend Lorcana Queen. She said, something a little different for us. We will always remember the warm reception from the community. At first, we were worried about being outsiders, but Disney memories span across everyone. And it's true. I mean, they were really nervous because they didn't know how to play the game. Like
Right.
they were approaching this from a collector standpoint, but because they were creating content and putting it out there, like they're motivated to learn how to play it now, which they probably already have. I haven't checked in with them, but it's pretty cool to see that people who got in with the intent of collecting are interested in playing too.
And I think it's a key point to say with in the last sentence where but Disney memories span across everyone, and that's one of the things about this game is that it's Disney, and so many people love at least one thing from Disney, and a lot of it is going into this game, and so many people have so many different memories and so much fun bringing these things onto a game that they can play with, as you mentioned, friends, family, loved ones, strangers at a game store that become friends, everything like that. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, a lot of people, like when the game was first announced, like to dunk on the game because it was Disney. But let's be honest, IP really matters. Like, I go back to the game I originally played, the Star Wars Decipher game back in the 90s. People love that game. People are still playing that game. There's a players committee that's still developing new sets. But when the license was taken from them, Decipher developed a new game just called Wars. That was the exact same game mechanics as the Star Wars game. But that game only lasted for 1 or 2 years. Like, yeah, the IP matters, and there's not an IP that's much more popular than Disney. Let's be honest.
Right. Exactly. All right. So next up we have Pavel Kolev. Did I pronounce it right? It's Pavel. it's Pavel from Pixelborn. Number one, everything Gen Con related. Number two, playing simplified version with my 5-year-old who got hooked. Number three, giving the interview to Eric Schweitzer. And number four, playing at local tournaments, which was totally unexpected because he's in a country that doesn't have it released there, right?
Yeah, he lives in Bulgaria.
And it wasn't released there. And
And
he was able to have an actual community where they went and played the game.
and I'm sure this has happened other places, but it's not just Pavel in Bulgaria. Like our friend Mushu over in Singapore. He's in Singapore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't get cards either, but they've had tournaments over there. Like, even though this game is only being sold in like 10 territories or markets, people around the world are are passionate enough about this game that they're getting their own cards on their own and creating these tournaments. I mean, it's so cool.
But yeah, playing a simplified version with his 5-year-old because the game is made for 8 and up, of course. We see that on the packaging. But yeah, being able to play with kids who probably, see all their favorite cartoon characters on cards and they're able to play a game with them. And yeah, that was a really good interview that he did with Eric. Nice long interview, talking about everything about Pixelborn. So just a lot of stuff in there. And of course, he said everything Gen Con related. So yeah. Just an awesome event.
All right, next one is from franilations.eth. First chapter got me back into playing TCGs for the first time in years, had me going to local game store events for multiple seasons, probably multiple weeks, earning and collecting promos and Disney Lorcana pins. Can't wait to see how the game grows in the coming months and years. So again, a variation on coming back to the game after years of being away. But I mean, it just goes to show how important having these promos and pins are to keeping the fan base coming out.
Yeah, giving us something else that we have to collect.
Oh, James, that's you speaking the truth there, your own truth.
Next up, we have Lorcanalytics, which does a lot of the data diving on the Lorcana world. And they say, I've always thought Lorcana cards look great, but I'm so glad that the game plays so well. Ravensburger designed an incredible game that's easy to pick up, but difficult to master. The fact that the meta continuously evolved is a testament to that, I think. And that is so true. Just so easy to pick up. You can learn it in 5 or 10 minutes, and then you can spend months just trying to figure everything out. Years, I don't know. We're still figuring stuff out. And the fact that the meta did continuously evolve was really awesome.
Yeah, there wasn't like as dominant as Ruby Amethyst was there for a couple weeks, and as dominant as Amber Steel Song turned out to being, like the fact that the meta hadn't been completely figured out after 3 months is completely a testament to how well balanced the game is.
Yeah, that you could, as you mentioned, you played Sapphire and Amber, and that deck could beat Ruby Amethyst pretty easily, fairly easily.
Yep.
And the fact that the top deck, the best deck in I mean, Ruby Amethyst really was the best deck. It's just it didn't win as much because you timed out.
Oh, yeah.
So the fact that you could win against that, even if it was not as good against some others, the fact that this whole rock paper scissors thing was just really nice to see that this deck beat this, but then that beat this, and then this beat this. So it was all cool to see.
Yep. Next comment comes from Alex Kent at AlexK245. He said, going 3-1, first time with a Ruby Emerald, so red-green deck, then finishing strong with multiplayer last night with my Emerald Sapphire, and finally getting the Aurora lockdown going for 2 wins. Just very satisfying to get a deck working and winning a couple pins. When it start, scar it end. And yeah, again, that goes back to that sense of accomplishment for building something, executing a strategy, and accomplishing your desired outcomes.
Yep. And next up, we have Kirsty. Grab your lore. My first win in a local tourney, and all the lovely people I've met there and online who share such a friendly passion for the game.
Yep.
I mean,
I agree.
not much else to say about that. That's just awesome.
Next, we have Mank at KIAN_Cahill. Definitely pulling this from one of the few packs I could find, Bell Enchanted. And while I'm not the most emotive person, I remember the thrill of opening up the Enchanteds that I got. Yeah, it's definitely a huge surge of dopamine.
Yeah. Remember, did I tell this? I told the story about how when I found the bell, right? Because we found it.
You did.
Yeah, that was awesome. Making Beth scream.
I remember you sharing that story, and that's exactly what I was thinking of when I was reading that comment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Next up, we have Jesse Hill at Forthright. My local Lorcana community, they're just awesome. I love the game, but having a great local community really helps me enjoy the hobby. And I know it's almost like, just in the way that we talked about product storage a lot, we're mentioning community a lot, but I think it just needs to be said because so many people have experienced it that having that local community and having the global community and being able to come together online and in your local store is just something that's really awesome. And I don't think we could say it enough.
Yep. Last comment comes from Sergio Rips at Sergio Rips. Hitting the never-ending train with Rockstar and having 16 characters on board for a comeback win. James, you played Stitch Rockstar. Did you ever have 16 characters on board?
I don't know if I ever got up to 6 characters because I played it so horribly.
This is pretty wild to me when I read that.
I had this done to me. Some guy got up to like 10. And I thought I was doing awesome because I put down a Mother Gothel. I'm like, none of them can quest. And it's like, well, we just, I just need like 2 of them, and Mother Gothel is banished, and then the rest of them quest, and I win the game. And it's like, whatever. But no, it's awesome. Having 16 characters out.
That's pretty wild. Wait,
do you even have room on your playmat for that? That's a lot of stacking of characters. That's for sure.
Yeah, you're right. My playmat is probably not a 16 character wide playmat.
No, not at all. All right. Well, that's it for our retrospective. I think what are we going to do next week? We're going to be looking forward to set 2 because set 2 is going to be out.
Yep.
It comes out the morning that this drops. And so all of you enjoy opening product that you can find, enjoy playing with the new cards, and we're going to talk about it next week, right?
But again, I just want to put this out there that I hope everyone has had as fun of an experience with the first set as we have. Like, I know a lot of people were not blessed to find as much product as us, but I hope in your own way and engaging with the community in your own terms that you guys have as fond of a memory of set 1 as we will. Like, it's never going to be the same from now on. Like, right now we're limited to 204 cards, and it's only going to get bigger from there, and the community is only going to grow bigger. This was really like a once in a game's lifetime experience here.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. And it was great. All right. Let's go on to ending segments, which is Lorcana Lexicon. And what is our word for this week, which does not fit the retrospective theme of everything was awesome?
That's true. This was actually suggested to me by one of my local game store fellow attendees, Adam. We were talking about the card Be Prepared, and he was saying the original card in Magic that was a board wipe was called Wrath of God. And so since that time, there have been more board wipes introduced, but anytime there's a card that's a board wipe, they call it a wrath card. So if you hear somebody refer to Be Prepared as a wrath, just know they're probably an old Magic player and it refers to a board wipe.
There you go. All right. So, news. We have some news. As we have mentioned, there is now an official Discord. It launched this morning. So, if you don't know where it is and you want to join, then you can just go find their tweet about it. And also in the Discord, it was in the Discord this morning in the announcements channel. There was a video message from Ryan, which has now been tweeted out. It was tweeted out just like an hour or two before we went and recorded this. But it's basically Ryan talking to you, the consumer of the game, the player of the game, that they have heard and they are going to be shrink wrapping the boxes, starting with set 3. And until then, they have those stickers / tape that is going on the sides and on the bottom to help protect them from being opened without being opened, which is something we talked about when back, after Gen Con, and everyone was talking about the fact that the boxes are so easily gotten into.
It's not a perfect solution, but I mean, I'm sure that these set 2 boxes have already been printed. It'd probably be near impossible to send them all back to get them shrink wrapped.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these wafer stickers, again, they're not the perfect solution, but they're probably the best for what we have now. And I just appreciate that they are cognizant enough of community feedback that they were taking action on it. To me, I love seeing that they see that and they're trying to address it.
And they mentioned that they have drastically increased production. And a lot of people who are wondering, well, I know that a lot of first chapter has shipped and the prices came down some, but it's still nearly impossible to find. It's like, well, they also haven't shipped everything yet.
They've only shipped the restock and not the reprint, right?
Right. Yeah, the
Okay.
reprint wasn't supposed to ship until right about now. They said mid-November is when it would ship, which means it won't be in stores for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks at least.
Yeah.
So sometime in December, I am expecting a lot more first chapter to come, and that's when we're going to get big box to get the second set. So look for a lot of Lorcana to be showing up on shelves, even if it only lasts for 3 seconds. It's better than lasting for 1 second.
Yeah, that's like 3 times as long.
And speaking of the video message, on his screens while he was talking, there were 2 enchanted cards shown. And we have seen officially revealed, I think it's 5 of the enchanteds and those 2 that were on his screens, but we've seen them all. If you know where to look, they were leaked because some people have opened product early. All 12 enchanteds for the Rise of the Floodborn have been revealed or leaked, so you can find them, and there are some pretty cards, some really cool cards, some interesting choices, I'd say, but all really cool cards.
Which one do you find interesting? I'm curious.
I mean, Pete and Lady Tremaine, I think, are not necessarily widely popular characters. And so from the first set, you had Elsa and you had Aurora and Belle and Maui and all of these characters that have been really popular in the last decade or two. And so having some of these characters from, like, one of the very first characters with Pete And I mean, I understand why they do it, but it's not something that the modern market is necessarily hyped for. So I think it's an interesting choice. I'm okay with it. I'm fine with it because it's all Disney, so it's cool.
Here's a piece of trivia for you. Maybe I told you. Did you know that Pete is actually older than Mickey and older than Oswald?
I think I've heard that. Yes, he was actually one of the first characters in one
It
of the
was
early cartoons that he created.
so Walt Disney's first thing that made him popular were these it was called the Alice comedies, where it was cartoons, but it had a live action girl in it, and Pig Lake Pete was one of the characters in there. And then after he wrapped that up, that's when he made Oswald.
There you go. That's pretty cool. So look, you're not just getting a card, you're getting a piece of Disney history in that character.
That's right.
There you go. But no, they all and my favorite, what's your favorite of the new ones?
What's my favorite? It's I don't know. It's hard. I really like the Arthur one, but I have to say, like, yeah, I'm a sucker. I love that Cinderella one.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick that one too.
That's an absolutely gorgeous card.
It is. And I love the unfinished sketch quality of it. I think that's part of what lends it it's I don't know, its specialness in the set, I think. So yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So other news, the app has all the cards in it now. So all cards have been revealed. That was Monday morning or Sunday night sometime. The app got loaded with everything. So if you're looking for all the cards, find some cards that maybe you didn't know existed because they didn't get leaked. Um, they're all in there now. Is that it? Is that all the news? Uh, Rise of the Floodborn comes out today. If you're
That's so
listening to
crazy.
this when this drops,
That is so crazy. At times, it feels like we've had set one forever, and then at times it feels like set one came out just 2 weeks ago.
right? Yeah, I think about it. I'm like, I've been playing, like I said, when I said I've been playing Amber Steel for 2 months, I'm like, wait, what? For 2 months? That's that. No, that couldn't have been 2 full months playing that. I don't know. Anyway, what is it time for now?
Disney Jeopardy.
And it's my turn to ask you some questions, and I am going to I'm going to make you not get 100%.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see.
I
All
gave you
right.
some hard ones last time, so it's only fair.
We shall see how it goes. Now, is there, you know what? Technically, there is a theme on a couple of these. Unintentional, but it's there. So for 100, uh, this is the color of Belle's dress when she dances with the beast.
What is yellow?
It is yellow. It's also gold.
Okay.
But I will accept yellow because I mean it's really drawn as yellow. Okay, for 200. This is who adopts Kristoff in the movie Frozen.
Who are the trolls?
That is correct. For 300. This is where Finding Nemo takes place.
Are you looking for a location or like what is an anemone?
It's like the location, the body of water or area, or
Oh.
even like off what coast it happens.
Um,
Anything.
okay. 42 Wallaby Drive, Sydney, Australia. What is the Pacific Ocean?
Is it the Pacific Ocean? Probably. It's so specifically, it's the Great Barrier Reef off the coast of Queensland, Australia.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned Sydney, Australia, so we're going to give that one to you. So here we go. Now it's going to start getting a little bit more difficult. It's a very specific question. This is the color of Dumbo's hat.
Dumbo's hat?
Yes. And I did give you a hint earlier.
You gave me a hint?
I did.
I don't remember talking about Dumbo earlier.
We didn't. But I gave you a hint.
Okay, explain this hint to me.
I said there's a theme.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say yellow. I was actually gonna guess yellow or green. So I guess I'm going with what is yellow?
That is correct.
Yes.
Basically the same color as the first question. Okay. This is the 500 point. This is who founded Radiator Springs in the movie Cars.
Oh my gosh. Uh, what is his name? Who is Stanley? Who is Stanley?
Yes. 5 for 5. I thought I was giving you hard ones. Okay, now.
I don't know if I can claim that 400 one. Like
Well, four
you
and a
gave
half.
me an awfully big hint there, but I'll take
No.
it. I'll
The hilarious thing is having grown up, I don't know if they're nationwide or not, but in Southern California, there is because Stanley is a steam car, right?
yeah.
Okay. There is a company here in Southern California called Stanley Steamer, and their trucks are all yellow,
Oh.
thus fulfilling the theme of some of the questions.
Um, did Stanley have a last name? Does it list the last name on there?
It didn't on the question I had, no.
Because for some reason Stanley T. Hudson was coming to my mind, but then I was like, no, I'm thinking of Doc Hudson.
Yeah.
But why was I thinking Stanley T? Anyway, I'll have to look at that later. Sweet. Well, if you liked what you heard, you can follow us on YouTube. You can subscribe to us on the podcasting platform of your choice. You can find me on the website formerly known as Twitter at Citizens of Lorcana. And James, where can they find you?
You can find me everywhere online at Dan Regal, and you can check out geekshotphoto.com for links for photography and such for my wife and I. And thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.